Steve, if you've taught me anything, is that there are multiple ways in which to read scripture. There's, and you'll pronounce these better than I will, peshat, remez, derash, and I always get this wrong, sword. Dante, who's got one of the greatest names you can imagine, Durante di Alighiero degli Alighieri, supposedly. He had something similar, but of course he was many years later. He talks about literal, allegory, moral, and anagogical or spiritual. So there's ways in which you can read text.
Anybody that's coming to study the Tanakh, the Old Testament, or even the New Testament, I think it is really useful to understand the way that the people that wrote these accounts would look to interpret Scripture, and to have that as an understanding. So I picked this up a good number of years ago now when I became quite interested in the Jewish roots of the Christian faith, because there was so much that didn't make sense when I was reading Scripture, particularly the New Testament, and I would be asking questions all the time of the text. And so if you were to pick up one of my old Bibles, it's got question marks and dates in it as to why, why this, why that number, why this location. And so much of that can be unravelled when you understand the Jewishness of the faith, because you're not looking at it from a white Western European lens, that 1700 years of institutional Christianity where the church has been married with the state and it's been a political power base. You're looking at it through the lens of what it was, which was a first century ancient Near East sect of Judaism where the earliest believers in Jesus were still meeting in the synagogue, still following the feasts, still doing a lot of the stuff that a normal everyday Jewish person would do, and they revered a Jewish rabbi as God in human form. And so trying to understand some of the Judaic way of interpreting their scriptures, I think is just really helpful.
And it adds so much pleasure as well as knowledge. Or possibilities. This is what I'm learning.
I describe it to people as, think of a lined drawing. All we're doing is we're adding colour into the image by this way of looking at things.
So there's 4 ways, and I believe it comes from Moses de Leon, who came up with the idea of PARDES. For this first episode, it's probably worth just highlighting what they are, and then we can move on to doing the separate episodes regarding each one.
PARDES is the mnemonic, so it's made up of the letters of the various beginning letters of the word that they're looking to present. So it's just a mnemonic used in the Middle Ages, ways that you would do biblical exegesis. Also linked to the Persian words for which we get the word paradise. Just intrigues me that paradise is sort of linked to this way of biblical exegesis, because when you're digging into the text, you're trying to reach a place of paradise, which is highly speculative, but I just think it's quite fun.